There is an invisible force at work in every life, quietly shaping outcomes, determining success, and revealing the truth about those who achieve and those who do not. It is called the law of averages, a principle so simple in concept, yet so powerful in its effect that it governs every action, every choice, and every moment of persistence. This is not a law of luck or chance. It is a law of predictable consequence, a mathematical certainty that rewards those who understand it and punishes those who ignore it. The law of averages does not care about desire, talent, or intelligence. It only responds to effort, action, and repetition. Every decision you make, every risk you take, every attempt you commit to is a point in the grand calculation of your life, slowly building toward the outcome that is statistically inevitable if you persist long enough. Most people live as if success is a lottery, hoping for a stroke of luck or a sudden miraculous opportunity. They wait, they hesitate, they overanalyze, and they fear failure. They fail to realize that success is not a single event, but the accumulation of countless small efforts, each one a chance to tilt the scale of probability in their favor. The law of averages makes this clear. The more attempts you make, the higher the likelihood of a favorable result. Every effort, no matter how small, counts. Each rejection, each setback, each mistake is simply a data point in the larger pattern, not a verdict on your potential or worth. The universe does not reward perfection. It rewards persistence. Understanding this law changes everything. When you recognize that your success is governed by averages, fear loses its grip. You no longer need to fear failure, because failure is not final. It is temporary and inevitable in the process. Each attempt, each action contributes to a greater total, bringing you closer to the moment when the numbers finally tip in your favor. The law of averages removes randomness from the equation and replaces it with predictable outcomes based on your actions. It shows that those who persist, those who refuse to stop trying, will eventually achieve results far beyond what seemed possible at first. The invisible force of the law of averages does not discriminate. It works for anyone who understands and applies it. It rewards courage, effort, and consistency. It punishes inaction, hesitation, and fear. Those who act boldly, repeatedly, and intelligently find themselves in alignment with this law, while those who wait passively, hoping for opportunity to fall into their laps, remain stuck in frustration, watching others succeed around them. The difference is not talent, not luck, not genius. It is the understanding and application of a principle that is far more reliable than chance. This law teaches a powerful lesson. Success is a numbers game, and persistence is your most valuable asset. Every action increases the probability of a positive outcome. Every attempt, no matter how small, is a step closer to the success that awaits you. There is a rhythm to this process, a natural order to the way effort compounds over time. Understanding it transforms uncertainty into confidence, fear into action, and potential into achievement. When you embrace this invisible force, you stop hoping for luck and start creating certainty through consistent effort. You stop waiting for opportunity and begin producing it with every repeated attempt. You stop fearing failure and start seeing it as proof that you are actively engaged in the process of success. The law of averages is relentless. It works whether you believe in it or not. It does not negotiate or compromise. It only responds to action, repetition, and persistence. Those who master this law understand that success is not a matter of chance, but a predictable outcome of consistent effort. The invisible force that shapes outcomes is always at work. Your job is simple: act, persist, and keep moving forward. The numbers will eventually tip in your favor. If you can grasp this principle and live it every day, you are no longer at the mercy of luck or circumstance. You are aligned with a universal law that guarantees one thing above all else: persistence and consistent action lead to inevitable success. Most people look at success and see only the results, the fame, the wealth, the recognition, without understanding the patterns that created it. They believe success comes to those who are lucky, who stumble upon the right moment, or who possess some extraordinary talent that others lack. This is a dangerous illusion because it removes control from the individual and places it in the hands of chance. The truth is far simpler and far more empowering. Success is a predictable outcome, governed by the law of averages, shaped by repeated, consistent effort, and influenced by the choices we make every day. Those who succeed do not wait for inspiration or luck. They act again and again, knowing that the more they try, the higher the probability of achieving their goal. The problem is that most people misunderstand what effort truly means. They see it as a one-time push, a heroic burst of energy, or a single brilliant move that will change everything. They fail to realize that success is not about isolated actions. It is about repetition, accumulation, and persistence. Each attempt, each effort, adds a point to the equation of probability. Each action increases the likelihood that the desired outcome will appear. The law of averages does not care about intensity alone. It cares about consistency. It does not reward occasional brilliance. It rewards those who refuse to stop, those who understand that progress comes from sustained action over time. This misunderstanding leads many to give up too soon. They try once, twice, maybe a few times, and when the result is not immediate or perfect, they declare failure. They do not see that every failure is simply one data point in a larger pattern, one saint, EP in the calculation of their eventual success. They fail to understand that each attempt, each rejection, and each setback is contributing to the inevitable tipping of the scales. Success is not a single event. It is a statistical certainty for those willing to engage with it repeatedly. The more attempts you make, the higher the probability of a favorable outcome. Every action, no matter how small, matters, and each failure is proof that you are actively participating in the process that leads to success. But understanding this transforms the way you approach life. Once you grasp that success is governed by averages rather than luck, you begin to see opportunity everywhere. You stop fearing failure and start embracing action. You stop waiting for the perfect moment and start creating it through persistent effort. The fear that once paralyzed you loses its power because you realize that every step you take contributes to the larger pattern of your life. You no longer measure your progress by a single attempt or a single outcome. You measure it by the totality of your effort and the cumulative impact it creates. .dr. This clarity also brings freedom. When you understand the law of averages, you are no longer a slave to circumstance, opinion, or fleeting moments of fortune. You realize that the path to success is not mystical or random. It is a path of repeated action, thoughtful persistence, and unwavering commitment. Every attempt, no matter how small, every step forward, no matter how insignificant it may seem at the moment, compounds into results that cannot be avoided. Those who understand this law do not wait for permission from the world. They act, they persist, and they trust that the numbers, the averages, and the principle that governs success will eventually deliver the outcome they seek. The key is to act with patience and determination. Small, repeated efforts are far more powerful than occasional bursts of activity. Each attempt increases your probability of success. Each setback becomes a guide for improvement, and each moment of persistence brings you closer to the tipping point where effort transforms into achievement. Once this mindset is embraced, hesitation disappears, fear becomes irrelevant, and inaction is no longer an option. The law of averages guarantees that those who persist, who act intelligently and consistently, will eventually achieve the results they desire. Persistence is not simply continuing to act. It is the deliberate, repeated engagement with opportunity, knowing that the law of averages is on your side. Every attempt, every effort, every action contributes to the larger calculation that determines outcomes. Those who understand this do not see failure as an end. They see it as a necessary step, a crucial data point in the process of achieving success. The law of averages makes one thing clear: the more you act, the greater the probability that your efforts will yield results. This is not theory or philosophy. It is a principle as predictable as the sunrise. It does not care about talent, luck, or circumstance. It responds only to action, and action compounded over time leads inevitably to success. Many people confuse persistence with blind repetition. They believe that simply doing something over and over will guarantee results. This is not the case. Persistence must be paired with focus, improvement, and learning. Each attempt is an opportunity to adjust, refine, and increase your effectiveness. The The law of averages does not reward random effort. It rewards deliberate, intelligent effort multiplied over time. When you act repeatedly with a clear purpose, you are stacking the odds in your favor. Each failure becomes a teacher, each attempt a building block, and each lesson learned increases the probability of achieving the desired outcome. Persistence, then, is not stubbornness, it is strategy. The mathematics of persistence is simple but profound. Imagine the path to success as a series of trials, each with its own probability of producing results. At first, the chances may seem small. One attempt may fail, another may produce only minor progress, and discouragement may creep in. But as the number of attempts increases, the law of averages ensures that success becomes inevitable. Each effort, no matter how small, adds weight to the scale. Each failure is not a reflection of inadequacy. It is a signal that you are engaged in the process, that you are participating in the calculation that will eventually produce success. The more consistent your action, the faster the scale tips in your favor. But persistence also reshapes the mind. Those who act repeatedly develop resilience, discipline, and confidence. They no longer fear rejection or failure because they understand that these are not permanent states. They are temporary, essential, and informative. Every setback becomes a stepping stone, every obstacle a guidepost, and every moment of struggle a chance to reinforce commitment. The law of averages transforms these repeated actions into certainty. The outcome is no longer a matter of chance. It becomes statistically predictable for those willing to persist. The real power of persistence lies not only in achieving the goal, but in the transformation that occurs along the way. Each repeated action strengthens character, sharpens focus, and builds a mindset capable of handling greater challenges. By understanding the mathematics of persistence, you learn that success is not a rare gift. It is the natural consequence of repeated, consistent effort over time. Those who master this principle are no longer intimidated by obstacles, failures, or delays. They act with certainty, knowing that the law of averages will reward the steady, determined, and intelligent pursuit of their goals. Persistence is a choice. It is the decision to continue acting despite uncertainty, to keep moving forward despite setbacks, and to trust that repeated effort eventually produces results. The LA of averages is impartial. It works for anyone who applies it. There are no shortcuts, no exceptions, and no reliance on luck. The principle is simple: act, persist, and the odds will inevitably favor you. Each attempt is a step closer, each effort a calculation toward success, and each moment of persistence a powerful declaration that you will not be denied the results that are rightfully yours. Fear is one of the most powerful forces holding people back, yet it is entirely unnecessary when you understand the law of averages. Most people hesitate, doubt themselves, or avoid taking action because they are terrified of failure, rejection, or embarrassment. They imagine that every attempt carries an absolute risk, that one misstep could ruin everything. This fear is crippling, but it disappears the moment you see failure in a new light. Every rejection, every mistake, every setback is not a permanent judgment. It is simply one data point in the larger pattern of effort. When you understand this, fear loses its power, and courage becomes a natural byproduct of persistence. The law of averages teaches that the more you try, the higher the probability of achieving success. One failure does not define your path. 2 failures do not define it. Even 10 failures are just part of the process. Each action is a step toward tipping the scales in your favor. This knowledge transforms fear into action because it reframes every setback as temporary, informative, and necessary. Rejection is no longer a reason to stop. It becomes proof that you are actively participating in the calculation that leads to eventual success. The more attempts you make, the closer you are to the moment when your persistence pays off. Understanding this principle also shifts your perspective on courage. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is action despite fear. When the law of averages is fully grasped, every act of courage is compounded with probability. Each bold attempt increases your likelihood of achieving the results you desire. The fear of failure loses its grip because you no longer measure your journey by isolated outcomes. You measure it by the accumulation of effort. knowing that the statistical weight of repeated action will eventually produce favorable results. Courage becomes habitual, persistence becomes natural, and fear becomes a background noise rather than a barrier. Many people stop themselves because they fear temporary discomfort, temporary embarrassment, or temporary loss. They imagine that failure is permanent, that rejection is final, and that setbacks are proof of inadequacy. This is the exact opposite of reality. Each failure is a necessary part of the process. It teaches, guides, and shapes you for the next attempt. The law of averages ensures that with enough repeated effort, these temporary setbacks will be outweighed by eventual success. By reframing failure as temporary and cumulative, fear becomes irrelevant. Action replaces hesitation, and persistence replaces doubt. When you adopt this mindset, you no longer wait for the perfect opportunity, the perfect moment, or the perfect circumstance. You act now knowing that repeated effort is the true determinant of results. You stop worrying about rejection, judgment, or immediate failure because each attempt is part of a larger calculation. The law of averages guarantees that those who persist will eventually succeed. You begin to see fear not as a signal to stop, but as a signal to act, to take the next step, to try again, and to keep moving forward despite temporary setbacks. The power of embracing fear in this way is transformative. It frees you to take bold action, to embrace challenges, and to continue moving forward when others give up. It teaches that success is not determined by comfort or certainty, but by consistent engagement with opportunity. By understanding the law of averages, fear is no longer a barrier but a guide, and each attempt becomes a building block toward inevitable success. The more you act despite fear, the more you align with the statistical certainty that your persistence will ultimately bring the results you seek. Consistency is the quiet force that separates those who dream from those who achieve. It is not the occasional burst of effort or the random act of inspiration that brings success. It is repeated, disciplined action over time that compounds into results far beyond what anyone could predict. The law of averages is neutral. It does not favor talent, luck, or circumstance. It rewards persistence, repetition, and dedication. Every consistent action, no matter how small, adds to the larger equation of success, gradually tipping the scales toward the outcomes you desire. Understanding this principle transforms the way you approach your goals, your work, and your life. Many people underestimate the power of consistency because it feels ordinary, mundane, and slow. They want immediate results, dramatic breakthroughs, and visible success. They fail to see that every extraordinary achievement is built on countless repeated actions that often go unnoticed. The law of averages shows that repeated effort increases the probability of success. Each small step, each incremental action adds weight to the scale. The person who shows up every day, who does the work consistently, who refuses to be discouraged by temporary setbacks, is the one who ultimately prevails. Consistency transforms ordinary effort into extraordinary results over time. Consistency also removes the tyranny of luck. Those who act sporadically rely on chance. They hope for opportunity to strike in their favor. Those who act consistently create opportunity through action. Every repeated attempt increases exposure to favorable outcomes. Each effort compounds learning, and every small victory strengthens confidence. The law of averages guarantees that if you keep moving forward, if you keep taking action, success becomes not just possible, but inevitable. The case. EY is not speed, intensity, or occasional brilliance. It is the habit of consistent effort, day after day, in every area that matters. This principle applies to every part of life. In business, personal growth, or relationships, small, repeated actions accumulate over time. One phone call, one lesson learned, one disciplined practice may seem insignificant in isolation. Yet, as these actions multiply, they form a pattern that cannot be ignored. The law of averages ensures that the consistent, deliberate pursuit of goals will eventually overcome temporary failures, setbacks, or discouragement. Success is a result of accumulation, not chance. Understanding this shifts focus from waiting for the perfect moment to creating momentum through consistent effort. Consistency also builds resilience. When you act persistently, you train yourself to endure setbacks without losing faith. You learn to trust the process rather than the outcome. You begin to see failure not as defeat, but as feedback, not as a barrier, but as a guide. Each consistent effort reinforces commitment, sharpens skills, and strengthens resolve. The law of averages rewards those who refuse to quit, those who persist long enough for the scale to tip in their favor. Over time, what once seemed impossible becomes inevitable, and the extraordinary becomes a natural result of ordinary repeated actions. The most successful individuals understand this principle intuitively. They know that speed, talent, or luck alone are insufficient. They know that every great achievement is the result of cumulative effort, of showing up when it is difficult, and of acting consistently even when results are delayed. The law of averages magnifies every repeated action, every persistent effort, and every disciplined step. Success is no longer a mystery or a matter of chance. It becomes a predictable outcome of your daily choices and consistent efforts. By embracing consistency, you align yourself with this universal law, ensuring persistence and repetition lead to the results you seek, no matter how long the journey may take. Timing and opportunity are not random. They are a natural part of the process governed by the law of averages. Every action you take, every effort you make, increases the likelihood that the right opportunity will appear. The law does not guarantee immediate results, nor does it promise that success will follow on the first attempt. Instead, it ensures that consistent, repeated effort over time increases the probability that you will intersect with the circumstances, people, or moments that can propel you forward. Each attempt expands your exposure. Each effort multiplies your chances, and each act of persistence aligns you with the invisible patterns that determine success. Many people fail not because they lack ability or vision, but because they underestimate the importance of repeated engagement with opportunities. They wait for perfect timing, hoping that the world will bend to their convenience. They stop after initial failure, believing that success must appear immediately or not at all. This is a misconception that undermines potential. The law of averages teaches that persistence combined with patience transforms repeated effort into eventual opportunity. Each attempt you make increases the probability that favorable circumstances will emerge. Timing is not about luck. It is about being consistently present, actively participating, and repeatedly taking action until the probability of success aligns with your efforts. Opportunity is not something to wait for. It is something to create. Each effort, each attempt, and each bold action compounds over time, increasing the chances that the right moment will present itself. The law of averages demonstrates that repeated engagement produces exposure, and exposure leads to opportunity. Those who act boldly and persistently find themselves in positions where success becomes inevitable, while those who wait passively remain outside the flow of possibility. By embracing consistent action, you do not leave your success to chance. You manufacture it through persistence, determination, and alignment with the statistical principle that governs results. Patience is essential in this process. Just as repeated effort increases probability, it also requires the understanding that results are not always immediate. The law of averages is impartial. It works regardless of time. Some attempts will fail, some opportunities will pass, but the cumulative effect of persistent action ensures that the right moment will arrive. The more you act, the more chances you give yourself to encounter opportunity. The more you persist, the more alignment occurs between your preparation, effort, and eventual success. Timing becomes less about waiting and more about consistent engagement with the world around you, knowing that repeated effort maximizes your likelihood of intersecting with the right circumstances. Trusting this process requires faith in the law itself. Each action contributes to an invisible calculation that determines outcomes over time. The more you try, the more exposure you gain. The more you persist, the higher the probability that opportunity will meet preparedness. Those who understand this principle do not despair when immediate results fail to appear. They continue acting, knowing that the alignment of effort, timing, and opportunity is inevitable. Each attempt, each step, each action is a necessary part of the process that transforms potential into achievement. The law of averages makes one thing clear: success favors those who act persistently and intelligently. Timing and opportunity are not random. They are the result of repeated engagement, focused effort, and patient persistence. Each attempt you make increases the probability that you will encounter the circumstances needed for success. Every effort compounds, every repetition builds momentum, and every moment of persistence aligns you more closely with the outcome you desire. By embracing this principle, you stop relying on luck, waiting for chance, or fearing missed opportunities. Instead, you act, persist, and trust that the law of averages will deliver the results you are working tirelessly to achieve. Preparation is the silent multiplier of effort. The law of averages rewards action, but it rewards skilled, informed, and deliberate action even more. Repeated attempts without preparation may eventually yield results, but the probability of success increases dramatically when every effort is guided by knowledge, planning, and mastery. Preparation transforms each attempt into a calculated step rather than a blind swing at chance. It ensures that every action contributes meaningfully to the larger equation, increasing the odds that your persistence will produce the desired outcome. Those who prepare understand that success is not random. It is the predictable result of repeated, well-executed action over time. Many people attempt to rely solely on effort, believing that hard work alone guarantees results. While effort is critical, without preparation, it is often wasted. Unprepared action is less effective, slower, and more likely to encounter setbacks. The law of averages works best when repeated effort is coupled with readiness. Preparation amplifies each attempt, enhances the quality of action, and strengthens the ability to seize opportunities when they appear. It turns ordinary effort into powerful momentum, allowing persistence to compound with skill and knowledge, creating an unstoppable force that drives toward inevitable success. But preparation also instills confidence. When you know that you have equipped yourself with the knowledge, skills, and strategy necessary for success, fear and hesitation lose their grip. You act decisively without hesitation and with clarity of purpose. Every step is guided by understanding, every attempt reinforced by capability, and every challenge met wit. Readiness. The law of averages ensures that repeated prepared action increases the probability of success, and preparation allows you to make each attempt count more. In essence, preparation aligns your efforts with probability, multiplying the effects of persistence. Another critical aspect of preparation is learning from each attempt. Every failure, mistake, or rejection carries a lesson that, when applied intelligently, increases the likelihood of success in subsequent efforts. Preparation is not only about planning before the first attempt, but also about adapting and improving continuously. The law of averages is dynamic. It rewards those who learn from feedback, adjust their approach, and persist with refined strategies. Each repetition becomes more effective, more precise, and more likely to produce the desired result. Preparation transforms repeated action into a calculated accumulation of progress. The law of averages also demonstrates the importance of preparation in seizing opportunity. Those who are ready when opportunity arises are far more likely to capitalize on it. Repeated action alone may produce chances, but preparation ensures that those chances are recognized and leveraged. Every attempt made with preparation compounds in value. Each effort is no longer random. It becomes a step in a deliberate path toward success. Preparation is the difference between wasted motion and strategic progress, between luck and predictable outcomes. Understanding preparation as part of the law of averages creates a powerful mindset. It transforms effort into mastery, repetition into strategy, and persistence into a predictable path toward achievement. Success is no longer a matter of hope. It becomes a statistical certainty for those who persist intelligently. By preparing, learning, and refining, every attempt becomes more effective, every failure becomes a lesson, and every action becomes a meaningful contribution to the inevitable results your persistence will yield. Preparation does not guarantee instant success, but it dramatically increases the probability that repeated effort, guided by knowledge and skill, will produce extraordinary outcomes. Failure is not the enemy of success. It is one of its greatest allies. Every failed attempt, every rejection, and every setback carries within it valuable information. The law of averages does not punish failure. It uses it as feedback to guide repeated effort toward a favorable outcome. Those who understand this principle see each failure not as a defeat, but as a necessary step in the calculation that leads to success. Every mistake provides clarity, every setback offers insight, and every temporary loss increases the likelihood that the next attempt will produce the results desired. Success, when viewed through the lens of the law of averages, is not a matter of luck. It is the predictable outcome of repeated, informed action refined by experience. Most people fear failure because they view it as a reflection of their ability, their worth, or their potential. They stop after the first setback, believing that a single unsuccessful attempt defines the end of the road. This misunderstanding is what keeps so many people trapped in mediocrity. In reality, failure is nothing more than a data point. It is information that allows you to adjust, improve, and refine your approach. The more you fail, the more insight you gain, and the higher the probability that your next action will bring success. In this way, failure becomes a teacher, and repeated engagement with failure ensures eventual triumph. Failure also builds resilience. Each time an attempt does not succeed, it tests your determination and commitment. Those who persist despite setbacks grow stronger, more disciplined, and more focused. They learn to detach from temporary disappointment and to trust the cumulative power of repeated effort. The law of averages ensures that persistence, combined with reflection and adaptation, inevitably produces results. Success is no longer a distant hope. It becomes the statistical certainty of action multiplied over time. By embracing failure as feedback, you transform fear into motivation and setbacks into stepping stones. The law of averages also shows that those who avoid failure avoid success as well. Hesitation, avoidance, and fear of rejection prevent action, and without action, the probability of achieving goals remains zero. Each attempt, regardless of the immediate result, is an essential part of the process. Failure is not the opposite of success. It is part of success itself. Every failed attempt sharpens your understanding, increases your skill, and prepares you for the moment when the law of averages finally delivers the results you have worked for. Understanding failure as feedback changes your entire approach to life. You begin to see that temporary setbacks are not permanent judgments. Each no, each obstacle, and each mistake provides information that, when applied intelligently, improves your chances of eventual success. The law of averages rewards persistence, preparation, and informed action. By failing strategically, learning from each experience, and continuing to act despite setbacks, you are not gambling. You are calculating. You are adjusting, and you are actively participating in the statistical certainty of success. Those who master this mindset do not fear failure. They embrace it. They understand that every failure is a necessary part of the path to achievement. Each setback is a teacher, each mistake is a guide, and each attempt increases the likelihood of reaching the goal. The law of averages ensures that repeated, informed, and persistent action will eventually produce the results desired. By transforming failure into feedback, you harness the very force that determines success, turning setbacks into stepping stones and temporary defeat into a predictable path toward triumph. At some point in every journey, persistence must push past stagnation, past the plateau where effort seems to produce little or no visible progress. This is where the law of averages demonstrates its power. Those who continue to act despite apparent stagnation are the ones who eventually break through and achieve extraordinary results. Temporary plateaus are not signals to stop. They are part of the process. Each repeated action, each small attempt, and each consistent effort contributes to the accumulation that will ultimately tip the scales in your favor. The law of averages guarantees that those who persist long enough, even when progress seems minimal, will eventually experience the breakthroughs they seek. Many people give up when results are not immediate. They become frustrated, discouraged, and disillusioned, believing that effort is wasted and that success will never come. This is a critical misunderstanding. Plateaus are a natural part of growth. They test commitment, patience, and resilience. The law of averages teaches that success is rarely instantaneous. It is cumulative. Each attempt that seems to yield nothing still adds to the total number of actions necessary for success. Every effort contributes to the eventual tipping point. Those who continue to act through stagnation are stacking probability in their favor, increasing the likelihood that their persistence will finally produce the results they desire. Breaking through a plateau requires both persistence and adaptation. Repetition alone is not enough. Each attempt must be informed by insight, learning, and adjustment. The law of averages ensures that when intelligent effort is combined with persistence, the probability of success increases dramatically. Temporary stagnation is a signal, not a verdict. It indicates that continued action, guided by reflection and strategy, is necessary to achieve the breakthrough. Those who recognize this embrace the plateau as an essential phase in the process, understanding that the extraordinary results they seek lie just beyond the point where most people give up. The power of persistence during stagnation also builds character. It strengthens resolve, cultivates patience, and develops resilience. Every continued effort during a plateau reinforces commitment and sharpens skills. You begin to trust in the process rather than immediate outcomes. The law of averages magnifies each repeated informed attempt. What once seemed like slow progress becomes momentum, and what once felt like frustration becomes the quiet accumulation of probability working on your behalf. Over time, the repeated efforts that seemed insignificant compound into a breakthrough that is both powerful and inevitable. Those who persist through stagnation understand that the law of averages is relentless. It does not reward the impatient, the hesitant, or the easily discouraged. It rewards those who continue, who adapt, and who remain committed when others abandon the path. Every small step, every repeated effort, and every moment of perseverance brings you closer to the tipping point. The breakthrough is not random. It is statistically inevitable for those who act consistently, intelligently, and without surrender. Persistence transforms stagnation from a point of frustration into a powerful step toward extraordinary achievement. By embracing the plateau and continuing to act, you align yourself with the law of averages. You move from uncertainty to certainty, from potential to results. Temporary stagnation is no longer a threat, but a proving ground for your persistence, a testing ground for your resilience, and a stepping stone toward breakthroughs. The law of averages guarantees that the efforts you sustain today, even when unseen or unacknowledged, will eventually culminate in the extraordinary outcomes you seek. Every repeated, deliberate action brings you closer to the inevitable moment when persistence and probability converge into success. But your action compounds over time, creating momentum that multiplies the effects of every effort. The law of averages demonstrates that repeated, deliberate action increases the probability of achieving the results you desire. One attempt may not yield the desired outcome. 2 attempts may still feel inconsequential, but as efforts accumulate, they create a force that cannot be ignored. Momentum builds quietly, almost imperceptibly at first, but with persistence it grows into a powerful engine that propels you toward success. This is the compounding effect of action. The principle that each effort, no matter how small, adds to the total probability of achieving your goals. Many people fail to recognize the importance of compounding action because results are not immediate. They expect instant rewards, immediate recognition, or rapid progress. When these do not appear, they stop trying, unaware that every small effort was a necessary contribution to the larger outcome. The law of averages rewards those who persist long enough to benefit from cumulative impact. Each attempt, each effort, and each repetition strengthens your position, increases your skill, and builds momentum that eventually becomes unstoppable. The results may seem distant, but the quiet accumulation of effort is setting the stage for breakthroughs that will exceed expectations. The compounding effect of action also enhances skill and mastery. Each repeated effort provides experience, insight, and knowledge. Mistakes and failures become teachers. Feedback becomes a guide, and repetition transforms ordinary effort into extraordinary capability. The law of averages ensures that persistent, intelligent action will eventually produce results, but the quality of action improves as repetition continues. Momentum is not just a numerical accumulation. It is the refinement of ability, the sharpening of focus, and the deepening of understanding. Every step forward compounds not only probability but skill, exponentially increasing the likelihood of success. DR, consistency, and PE. Persistence are at the heart of this compounding effect. One random act of effort is insufficient, but repeated, deliberate, and focused action creates a rhythm that aligns with probability. Every attempt increases exposure to opportunity, every repetition enhances learning, and every moment of persistence strengthens resolve. The law of averages guarantees that the longer you persist with intelligent action, the greater the cumulative effect. This is the hidden force behind all great achievements. Success is not a single act, but the compounded result of countless small, purposeful efforts carried out over time. BR momentum also transforms mindset. As repeated action produces gradual results, confidence grows, fear diminishes, and persistence becomes natural. The law of averages teaches that results are not random. They are the predictable outcome of repeated, intelligent effort. As momentum builds, the sense of inevitability grows, reinforcing action and creating a cycle of continuous progress. What once felt difficult or uncertain becomes manageable, and what once seemed impossible begins to feel inevitable. The compounding effect of action turns ordinary effort into extraordinary outcomes, aligning persistence with statistical certainty. Those who master this principle understand that every step matters. Small, consistent efforts accumulate silently but powerfully. Each action increases probability, each repetition compounds experience, and each moment of persistence strengthens momentum. The law of averages rewards patience, diligence, and intelligent effort. Success is not a matter of chance. It is the natural outcome of repeated, focused, and persistent action. By embracing the compounding effect of action, you transform effort into momentum, momentum into mastery, and mastery into predictable, extraordinary results. Confidence is not born from luck or circumstance. It is cultivated through repeated action and the understanding that effort predicts outcome. The law of averages demonstrates that persistence, preparation, and intelligent action produce results over time. Those who act consistently develop an unshakable trust in their abilities and in the process itself. Confidence grows when you understand that each effort, each attempt, and each setback contributes to a larger calculation that favors success. When you embrace this principle, fear and doubt lose their power, and the certainty of eventual achievement replaces hesitation and indecision. Most people lack confidence because they measure themselves by isolated outcomes rather than cumulative effort. A single failure, a temporary setback, or a missed opportunity can discourage and paralyze them. They forget that success is rarely instantaneous and that the law of averages rewards repeated engagement over time. Each attempt, no matter the immediate result, is a contribution to the inevitable tipping of the scales. Confidence comes when you stop judging your worth by individual outcomes and begin measuring your progress by the persistence, preparation, and learning you apply consistently. The more attempts you make, the stronger your certainty becomes that success is not a matter of chance. It is a statistical probability. BR confidence is also strengthened by the mastery of action. When you know that repeated effort compounds over time, you act decisively, without hesitation or second guessing. You understand that no single failure defines you, and that every setback provides information that improves the effectiveness of future attempts. The law of averages turns action into assurance and persistence into certainty. Each step forward reinforces your trust in the process, and each challenge you face becomes an opportunity to deepen your confidence. Those who persist with intelligent action are never left doubting their potential. They know that continued effort will inevitably produce results. Moreover, confidence cultivated through the law of averages is resilient. It does not waver in the face of rejection, criticism, or temporary setbacks. It is grounded in understanding rather than emotion, in strategy rather than hope. You no longer fear taking risks or making mistakes because you understand that repeated action ensures progress. The law of averages provides a foundation of certainty. Your efforts, compounded over time, will produce results. Confidence is the natural byproduct of this knowledge, giving you the courage to act boldly and the patience to persist until success is realized. Those who embrace this principle stop seeking validation from others or external circumstances. They trust in their efforts, in their preparation, and in the cumulative effect of repeated action. Every attempt becomes a reinforcement of confidence, every setback a lesson, and every small success a signal that momentum is building. The law of averages teaches that results follow action, and confidence follows understanding. When you internalize this truth, fear becomes irrelevant, hesitation disappears, and doubt no longer dictates behavior. Confidence becomes inevitable because it is grounded not in wishful thinking, but in the predictable outcome of persistence and deliberate effort. The law of averages empowers you to act with certainty, knowing that continued effort aligns probability in your favor. Confidence is no longer fragile or fleeting. It becomes a steady force that drives action, fuels persistence, and sustains momentum. Every attempt, every effort, and every repeated action reinforces your trust in the process. By embracing this understanding, you cultivate unshakable confidence, not as a matter of chance or circumstance, but as the logical, predictable result of the law of averages at work in your life. Success is not an event. It is the culmination of countless deliberate actions, repeated efforts, and unwavering persistence. The law of averages ensures that the more attempts you make, the higher the probability of achieving your goals. Those who understand this principle do not leave their outcomes to chance, luck, or fleeting opportunity. They recognize that repeated intelligent action compounds over time, transforming small, consistent efforts into extraordinary results. Success is not reserved for the fortunate few. It is the predictable outcome for those who act with consistency, purpose, and courage. Many people fail because they focus solely on the end result, measuring their worth by a single victory or defeat. They do not see that every attempt, every effort, and every failure is contributing to the larger calculation that determines eventual success. The law of averages rewards those who persist, learn, and improve. It magnifies repeated action, turning persistence into probability. Success is rarely instantaneous, it is cumulative. Each moment of effort, each bold step forward, and each failure that provides insight adds to the invisible momentum that propels you toward achievement. The outcome becomes inevitable for those who refuse to stop. The culmination of effort is not only measured in results, but in personal growth. As repeated action compounds, so too does resilience, confidence, and mastery. The law of averages does not only shape external outcomes, it transforms character. Those who persist through setbacks, act despite fear, and continue refining their efforts develop a mindset capable of handling greater challenges. Each repeated attempt strengthens focus, sharpens skill, and builds a foundation for continued success. The extraordinary outcomes achieved are the natural consequence of the preparation, persistence, and intelligent effort invested over time. Understanding that success is cumulative also removes the tyranny of perfection. You no longer need to wait for flawless conditions, perfect timing, or complete certainty before acting. The law of averages ensures that consistent effort, even if imperfect at first, contributes to eventual achievement. Every attempt, even teach, those that initially fail increases the probability of success. Temporary setbacks, mistakes, or delays are not failures. They are data points in a larger pattern that is steadily moving toward a favorable outcome. This understanding liberates action, transforms fear into courage, and replaces doubt with calculated confidence. Those who embrace the law of averages do not give up when faced with obstacles. They understand that persistence through challenges is what ultimately produces success. Momentum builds with repeated effort, skill improves with each attempt, and confidence grows as understanding of the process deepens. The law of averages guarantees that those who continue acting intelligently and consistently will see their efforts rewarded. Success is no longer unpredictable. It becomes a statistical certainty. What once seemed impossible becomes inevitable, and what once felt uncertain becomes the natural result of continued action. Finally, the law of averages teaches that the power to succeed lies within your hands. You are not a passive observer of life. You are an active participant in the calculation that determines outcomes. Each choice, each effort, and each moment of persistence contributes to the final result. Success is not a gift. It is earned through repetition, informed action, and unwavering commitment. By embracing this principle, you align yourself with a universal law that guarantees one thing above all else: persistence and consistent effort, compounded over time, inevitably lead to success. The path is clear, the principle is reliable, and the results are inevitable for those who refuse to quit.